So welcome to our immersion weekend. So as we come into an immersion, it's like we enter a frequency field for transformation, for recalibration. It's like the immersion field is the graced conditions for expansion to happen, let's say. For us to discover, for us to open, for us to recognize as the intelligence that we are, bring online a deeper connection to the intelligence that we are. And everything that we imagine that awakening is, we start to discover is like a natural evolutionary process that is happening. We are in that process. And that there is no goal that we are looking to achieve, that the moment here now, the timeless now, invites us to live the fullness of who we are and to root and anchor into the presence of being right here, right now, and to let go of the idea that there's something in the future that we are trying to achieve or attain, or even surrender to. And in a way, we discover that true surrender is about just being here, just as we are, just as you are. Because the great discovery of our true essence nature is right here, right now. You are already whole. You have never been bound. And what we are really dealing with is the recognizing connection to the intelligence of life, remembering at the resonant level who we are. And then we are dealing with being aware of the conditioning and the patterning of the mind that keeps us in a belief system and holds us in a belief that we are divided from the glory, from what God truly is, what love truly is. And it's only the learned mechanism of following the beliefs of the mind that keep us away from the fullness of what it is to live and be the awake being. And so we open to discover, and it's like we expand our direct experience into a relaxation that recognizes the awake field, the field of presence. And we look as love upon the structures and the functions that are conditioned and protective, that keep us from fully living in a harmonious flow with the intelligence of life, and believing that we are divided and that we need to protect. We discover what is actually true about us and not what we believe about us. It's what we're always up to, right? And and we gather, let's say, because we are joined in a frequency of where the call of the heart is to live the deepest depths possible in the human life, to live as the heart and not live as the mind, we could say, right? For the mind to try to find its true place. For the ones that are in Shine, I made a recording about this morning. You may or may not have listened to it, so there might be a little bit of overlap, because this is what is in the field this morning, is the way that the mind is conditioned to hold the protection. It's doing a very good job, right? Many beings, many humans are wired, like the collective consciousness is very wired to feel very aligned and natural with left brain functionality, logic, structure, routine. Habits join very effortlessly with those kind of patternings, right? Definitely there are beings that are wired with right brain, right mind functioning, where there's much more spaciousness and flow and intuition and openness, very, very naturally. But within the collective consciousness, even the ones with right brains and right minds have been tried to be conditioned to fit into a culture which is essentially in reverence of the left brain, left mind structures. And yet the evolution of human consciousness relies on us releasing the collaboration with left brain, left mind structures and the way that they easily hold a sense of protection and conditioning, a sense of needing to feel safe, a sense of needing to feel right, all to do with the natural wiring, which is about efficiency, which in itself is a beautiful thing. But it's like the glory functioning of left brain structures are co-opted by protections and conditionings and very easily become an imbalance of power towards this is the way, being much more rigid. And these kind of protective structures are lacking the capacity to open to the field of presence, because protection is calling all the energy into a sense of division. Find your safety, you're separate, you're there's a threat. Like life is a threat, life can't be trusted. So there's like all the energy tends to be deployed towards safety and belonging, rigor, routine, intellect, learning, knowledge, which actually shuts down the natural connection, even if our brain and mind are wired to be very easily aligned with the structures, those more logical structures and strategies. Every being has the capacity to open to the intuitive flow in the presence of being and truly awaken to being a multidimensional, unified being, right? And in a way, in this process, the left mind wiring actually opens to become, it becomes more brilliant. It becomes brilliant. It starts to operate in alignment with the infinite field of possibility and bring innovation and ideas and hold structure, which is actually essential as part of the wholeness in a very natural way. But that doesn't operate until it doesn't operate at its full capacity, let's say. It becomes like a trying, efforting, strategy-oriented, protective mechanism that often results in things like burnout, because it's just trying so hard. It's so performance-related and engaged. And in a way, we want to always be inviting the perfect conditions for that mechanism of functioning to be able to relax the protection, soften into a true frequency field where the consciousness of that protective mechanism can find a safety, a sense of true safety on a resonant level. Discover what it truly belongs to, that it's not separate and divided, and its life doesn't depend upon its performance, efficiency, and holding patterns, right? The conditioned holding patterns, needing to be right, needing to be seen, needing to be validated, needing to kind of make everything revolve around a sense of, I've got this, I've got it, right? It's an invitation for all of the protective function, the kind of armoring, guarding of that mechanism to relax, which allows the ones that have left brain wiring to come to this brilliance and innovation, and it allows the ones that have right brain wiring to actually realize the powerful vehicles of evolutionary change and intuitive capacity that they are. And often those beings have felt like they're the ones that are not smart enough, that they can't fit into those structures, that they feel like they're lacking in a world that really values push, 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 hustle, 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 right? That kind of, and the ones that feel like they don't fit in find that actually they're holding the space. They are the frequency of safety. They are the field of presence for the collective consciousness to actually relax into safety, that they're actually naturally holding a ground of being and presence. So there's this incredible potency as we speak of the uniqueness, that we discover the true ones that we are, and that we're so profoundly uniquely wired. And as we open, it's like a rebalancing happens. A lot of focus gets given to rebalancing the masculine and the feminine in us. And we relate to that often according to our biology and cultural archetypes around man and woman, masculine and feminine. So today we're just bringing in a way of feeling into this as a kind of left and right, kind of strategic and intuitive, and that we all contain all of these possibilities. But we're uniquely wired, and in a way, as we open to the field of presence and we discover a safety to really be the unique one, to find the essence nature, it's like we naturally harmonize and rebalance, and we find, okay, this is actually what's true for me. This is how I flow, how I operate. And we stop feeling like there's something wrong with me, that I don't fit in, that I don't function like other people, right? Because we're not supposed to function like other people. We're supposed to function optimally according to the way that we're wired. And as we come to be able to discover a relaxation into safety, and we also discover the inner mechanism and intelligence where we can trust, like we could say the true intuitive messaging of the intelligence, but we're also trusting the instinct, let's say, our creature instinct of the body, right? The creature instinct is deeply connected to true intuition. And we've learned to override our creature instinct often because we've been cohering with our parents' creature instinct of what they want. And we've been trying to be validated and fit in, maintain connection and nourishment in those kind of dynamics. And then we tend to live our lives repeating those dynamics, right? That we find ourselves in relational dynamics, whether they are personal, intimate, relationships and partnerships, or whether they are how the family dynamics are continuing to play, or in our work situations, just the companionships and constellations around us, we tend to recreate out of the frequencies that we've learned that are discordant. And the reason that we keep recreating those situations is in order to free ourselves, right? There's an incredible intelligence and wisdom to how it all flows. And we're not here to answer the kind of why question, or why me, or this is so hard, right? That the victim consciousness wants to kind of keep bringing forward that sense of like, why is it so hard? Why is it like this? Why did God do this to us? You know, it's all of these kind of questions that the victim consciousness wants to ask, and in a way quite rightly, kind of like, because it feels so imbalanced and unfair, and it doesn't make sense, and I'm trying my best and I keep hitting a wall, and Jesus, not another relationship that's playing out the same dysfunction. Like, no, not another relationship with my, the mother, the father, whatever. It's like we see these things and we just think, what on earth is going on here? And of course we're trying our best. And in a way, the call to awaken, the call for enlightenment, the call for God, for the divine, is like the most profound inner call within us towards our own wholeness, right? We're being called to our own wholeness, to find what is missing in us and find coherence, to find love, nourishment, connection. Of course we are. And yet, even though that great call is there, we tend to then find avenues to connect to that also bring our dysfunctional frequencies in, right? So we can be called towards awakening, wholeness, opening, expansion, God, the spiritual path. And there's an absolute true pull and connection to that. And yet the filters of our conditioning can be coloring, let's say, the path, and meaning that what we also encounter in our sincere journey and call for exploration are the frequencies of discordance, and how we maybe put authority outside of us, how we're looking to put authority often outside of us earlier on in the journey. We want someone to tell me how to do this. And often we can then also create projections onto, beings, lineages, forms, deities, gurus outside of us, because we're looking to kind of get away from ourselves. It's like, get me away from this creature that I am. I don't want to be in this body. I don't trust life. I don't know how to do it. There seems to be something wrong with me. So we're kind of squirming through life in a way. Well, anyway, that was my experience. I don't want to make the assumption, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that we will all find familiarity. It's kind of the human condition. But we kind of squirm through life. I mean, bless our little cotton socks. We're doing our absolute best. And we're receiving, we're receiving education. Education's trying to fit us into a very left brain oriented structure. Learn all this information and regurgitate it in a 2 or 3 hour exam. And if you don't do that, you're a failure, right? Who felt they were a failure all of their life because they didn't fit into that structure, right? It's it's grace if you can do it, and it's really confusing if you can't, right? And so there's something so potent about, it's touching my heart here. It's really, really potent to discover that there's so much more to this unfolding, and the intelligence of how we're wired, and there's no mistake in this life. And however our wiring is, we all face challenge, right? We all face intensity. We all face the sense that there's something wrong with me. We all face the sense of trying to fit in, trying to maintain connection, trying to find love, trying to find out who the devil we are, right? And feeling rejected, abandoned. A sense that life doesn't really feel like it's totally making sense. And of course, in that, a sense of feeling like, well, I don't want to take part in this. I don't want to do this. I don't trust this. You know, all of these kind of energies can be floating. And at the same time, we are all uniquely wired as a profound expression of the divine. And to discover actually that there is nothing wrong with us, not any of us, right? All dysfunction, all crazy stuff in the collective culture is playing out because each being is trying to fit into a system and trying to find a way to be powerful, successful, accumulate all the things within a discordant, dysfunctional, imbalanced collective society or culture, civilization even, really, right? And so what we are opening to, and why awakening is so compelling, is that it's a felt sense within us that we can discover the parts of us that are missing, that we can discover a sense of wholeness, a sense of balance, a sense of unity. And yet what tends to happen often in the earlier stages of this unfolding is that we try to get away from the things that we think are wrong with us, and we try to kind of reinvent ourselves as a spiritual being, a spiritual creature, right? And we try to like fit ourselves into these ideas of, well, we look around and we think, okay, well, this is what a perfected or awakened being, an enlightened being is like. But we're seeing through the filters of I'm right, that's wrong. We're seeing through the filters of all these nuances of projection of authority outside of us, projection of power outside of us, projection that there's something wrong with me, but something right with you. All the things, right? So many subtle nuances, but we all can feel into our own flavor of this, how this journey has unfolded. And really, all that we need is a field of presence. And so when we discover practices and techniques where the intellect relaxes, where the body relaxes, where the nervous system relaxes and anchors itself, instead of this hypervigilance that the nervous system can be in, either trying to fit in, belong, find safety, perform, be efficient, keep to the structure, keep to the routine, find nourishment, find love, find the right relationship, the right partner, do it this way, do it that way, that whole thing, that hypervigilance to an anxiety, which is like a collective buzz that we kind of are almost trying to cohere with. We need coffee, right? No wonder we need coffee. We're trying to buzz in and stay attuned. And it's like, don't fall asleep, you know? What could you lose if you actually relax? But then we learn like meditation, or we go to a yoga class or qigong or something creative where we enter into a sort of sense of flow or nature, right? We find a place where it's like, oh, I feel at home here. I feel relaxed. I feel a belonging. I feel more like myself. Of course we want more of that, right? Bring it on. And so we start feeling good. We start feeling like, oh yeah, this is good. But then we employ all of those strategies and logic and routines and say, right, let's get rigorous about this. Let's really like do this. Let's achieve this. Let's be successful at this. Let's be really efficient at this. Let's do everything. Let's get every book. Let's get, let's go to all the retreats. Let's find, the perfect teacher and join that community where the promise is and sometimes that will, for some beings, that will be the more expensive it is, the better it's going to be. For some beings, it's the greater distance and travel of the pilgrimage will make it more better. For many of us, it's how hard it is, how challenging it is, how humbled we feel will make it feel like it's better, right? We have all these ways that we're uniquely wired that says, you're so bad, you're so wrong, you're so lacking, that the more that it feels like you're being challenged, the better that's going to be for you, because it's going to purify your deep, dark, bad aspects, right? It's going to bring something forward for you, but you've got to work hard at it, right? But what if all of that is utter nonsense? What if all of that is just created by that imbalance, that power imbalance, that imbalance towards the left brain, left mind kind of culture that the collective of humanity has been residing in, which is like a masculine towards that masculine, right? And we realize that it's got nothing to do with the biology or our bodies or our sexuality or whether we what we like wearing or whatever, or whether we're into dolls or tanks or guns or dresses or whatever. It's actually to do with this kind of wiring, and it's about opening to where intuitive flow, creativity and intelligence and relaxation and softness is discovered to be part of everyone's nature, and that everyone needs a balance of that in order to reach their potential, right? So whether it's natural and we are coherent with the left brain, left mind structures, and we are wired to be efficient and innovative and brilliant, or whether we are wired to be the flow of intuition and to actually be an anchored holding presence that has access to that ground very, very easily, to creativity very, very easily, right? But it's like a rebalancing that happens where we find that, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, and I don't need to strive or push or effort to try to be like anyone else. That the actual journey, let's say, of awakening, the journey to true nature, to true essence, is about discovering the field, the ground of presence, a frequency field of presence, being, peace, which is the perfect conditions for opening and expansion of our consciousness that has been held in limitation to soften, relax, and find a sense of safety and belonging to wholeness, instead of trying to find a sense of safety and belonging to the culture, society, and the way that it seems that the collective functions. And that in a way it takes courage, because we are pioneers and way showers. We are change makers, and we are here to be a frequency field in our lived experience as a resonant frequency, a being of the frequency of wholeness, of love, of openness, that actually walks as a field that is resonating to invite safety, reassurance to the ones around us without needing to give Dharma talks, right? That we actually just operate as a field of the frequency of safety, care, peace, blessing, love, holding. And whether we are are operating as a kind of field that holds that as a structure, or whether we are a field that holds that as total openness and presence, like receptivity. It doesn't matter, because it's all a frequency field of coherence with wholeness. It's all a frequency of the awake field, and we could call that the frequency of love. But it's where we find a true sense of belonging, and our uniqueness gets to flower. And actually, more than that, our uniqueness gets to be discovered as a frequency that is so welcome and needed as part of communities and families and the constellations, the work environments, that our unique frequency, when we have the courage to relax into it and truly let that flowering happen, and not trying to compete, compare, an effort towards fitting into something, we actually start to be the awake field. We start to be resourced from source, connected to source, in our true nature, as a flow of nature, cohered with life, cohered with the intelligence of life, right? Like just right now in this moment, to just feel your own nervous system start to relax and soften. Because our field, we could say by the nature of how this one is wired, is always a field of presence and holding. Always. That's the uniqueness here, is to just be a presence that holds, invites, is absolutely stable and unmoving, unwavering, right? And the invitation then is always to soften, relax, just let yourself be here. But what's also important is that the mind feels like, well, if I relax, I won't be safe. Is everything that I've learnt being discredited? No, not at all. It's about softening into a felt sense of being, because a felt sense creates a ground, which is like a stability that gives that gives that sense of structure a different ground, a ground that can be felt, but is not a mental structure. It's a ground that can be felt, but it requires for us to come into a deeper coherence with the intelligence of the body, and to be able to feel and sense and open to experiencing the ground as an expanded field of presence and being, instead of the ground being the mind's structure of safety, which is actually containment and limitation. We open to discover that the ground of being is safety and belonging and holding. In a way, it allows the mind to relax into a field, just like a wild horse that only lies down to truly rest and sleep when there is a companion that stays awake, right? It's like the field itself becomes that companion, the true friend, a frequency field of safety where the mind says, oh, the body, let's say the body intelligence is feeling and sensing a ground. Now I can relax. I don't need to be on guard. I don't need to be in a sense of anxiety and hypervigilance and threat, because through the body, I can feel a ground, that there is somewhere that I can land. And even if that ground is a sense of presence or being, it's a felt sense, but of course it requires us to open to the wisdom of the body, the intelligence of the body. So in a way, what we're speaking of here and inviting is something that we've been working on for many years. Like we've been opening to this, and whether it's through our gatherings or whether it's through our life and our experiences and practices, we're really speaking about opening. The body intelligence is about opening to the somatic field, and the sense of opening to the field of presence is about opening to the one essence, nature. And what does it take for the nervous system to truly relax, right? Recognizing that our nervous system and how we experience the nervous system is very unique for every being. Because for some, the nervous system will feel connected very easily to the field of pure consciousness and expansion. And yet the nervous system will have a vigilance of trying to maintain connection to the way life operates or the way the collective consciousness operates. So it will hold a vigilance and a fear there, or a mistrust in life, a mistrust that it's okay to relax and be myself, a mistrust that it's okay to be an intuitive being, that it's okay to be a being that feels very open and expanded. And otherwise, the mind, the nervous system that's more wired into the mind, in a way to feel like, no, safety is about what I know and is about my performance and my achievements and being seen and being validated, right? It allows that nervous system wiring to soften into finding that validation and a true sense of safety can be felt and grounded into presence. And actually that becomes like it holds a sense, let's say, of a knowing, an ability to recognize it, right? That is different from the mental recognition, but it brings online the intelligence. And of course, the mind is made of intelligence, is made of consciousness, but it's working as like an intellect, but it gives the intellect an ability to ground into intelligence, which doesn't feel like a rejection or abandonment of how that strategic mind functions, but it's, let's say, that strategy gives way to a ground of connecting to intelligence that can be felt through the body intelligence as a ground, right? If your wiring is like that, you will definitely find a way of, you'll understand what is being spoken, and you will find your own languaging for it, for sure, just through being the intelligence. So the invitation is just to be here as ever. And in the being here, just to feel how your system is responding to the invitation to be as you are, to receive the way that you receive, open to your experience, not trying to understand, not trying to get anywhere, but opening to your nervous system and your experience, being aware of the thoughts that come, being aware of the body sensations that come. Be aware of yourself being here, and let's say, be aware of yourself being here on the level of feeling your body intelligence and the aliveness of the nervous system. Be aware of the feelings and sensations that are moving in your experience that you can feel and connect to. And also to open to be aware of a sense of being that feels to be a wider, expansive sense of being that is beyond the body, beyond the mind. So we're kind of opening to the mind, the body, and the wide open field simultaneously, or however you relate to it, however you are feeling, sensing it in this moment, right? But to let yourself just be with yourself while the wide open field is your companion that's holding space, holding a sense of safety and presence so that you can explore, right? Our field is a field of exploration. It's a field of safety and presence where you can explore, where you can be here as the unique one that you are here to be, that you don't have to fit in, that the actual invitation is to be the unique one that you are, and to use this field as a field of exploration to discover your uniqueness, and that your uniqueness has an absolute place in the functioning of wholeness, and that you don't need to isolate yourself, you don't need to question yourself. Like, no, there's no question of not fitting in. The mind has ideas of not fitting in because it hasn't fitted in to the collective. The mind has ideas of not belonging because it hasn't felt like it belongs to an imbalanced collective structure. So our rebalancing is about finding that you belong to the glory, you belong to love, you belong to wholeness, and allowing your nervous system to discover what happens when you belong to wholeness. It's almost akin to where there's like financial stress and scarcity playing. I call it the billionaire frequency, right? It's like, how would your nervous system and your sense of scarcity and fear feel if you had $1 billion in the bank, right? A field of safety says, you have $1 billion in the bank. You don't have to worry. There's enough. There's more than enough. There's so much, beloved, right? How does your nervous system rest? I mean, the mind, of course, says, yeah, but I don't, right? But the frequency of safety, the frequency of being connected to source is the $1 billion frequency. It's the resources. I mean, it's more than $1 billion. It's a gazillion, trillion, willion dollars, right? It's the infinite unbounded. It's more than you can ever imagine, right? So it's like having a bank account that is so stacked, so stashed with all the resources. And we use that as an example because it's so easily a place that we can perhaps relate to feeling like there's not enough, or a fear, a sense of lack or deficiency that turns the survival mechanism on. The billionaire frequency is the frequency field of feeling the connection to source, resourced from source, being held by a presence that is unwavering and unchanging, a love that loves you unconditionally and is here and present for you as an intelligence of life that is absolutely guiding you, supporting you in every moment because you are made of it, and you're being invited to connect with it in a way that opens the flow of that connection as true nourishment and resource, as a creative flow of intelligence that starts to bring all the seeming pieces of you into alignment, right? So just resting here and receiving. Just being here. Taking a few nice, long, slow, gentle, deep breaths. Letting yourself ground. Letting yourself just be here, using the breath to deepen into being with yourself. Deepen into opening to your field of experience and feeling and being. Opening to receive the thoughts that come and go. Opening to receive the fullness of this moment just as it is. And truly inviting, as we have been, a discovery of what true rest is. What is it to rest? To be that wild horse that after all these days, years, weeks, months, whatever, of wandering, finally feels safe to lay down and rest, to lay down the guard, to lay down the hypervigilance, to lay down the sense of needing to protect and fearing a sense of threat, and to just be here and just let the unwinding happen. Using the breath if it feels supportive. Bringing the breath into a gentle flow. Inhalation followed by exhalation. Letting the breath just flow naturally, watching the breath and softening into a relaxation, into the field of presence, just allowing a natural softening, a natural relaxation, expansion, and openness. Just being here, just simply being here. To be in the exploration of what living reality is to open to the wide expansive space of the being. But to be open to the way that our unique nervous system and consciousness is flowing, so that we can truly be an expansive field of being that acts for ourselves as a holding presence eventually, that allows the residues of protection to open. We could say be illuminated and filled with light, It's as if the places that feel dark and shadowy in our experience of ourself and our life, in this unfolding, can be filled with light, illumination, can be revealed in their true essence, to not be dark and wrong and bad and lacking, separate and divided, limited, but can be revealed to be bright and brilliant and fully included. And as we rest and relax, we open to be an awareness that is present and receptive for all of the seeming fragments and parts of ourselves to be included. Right? This is the natural evolution. It is how we actually come to be able to abide in the field, right? We hear that word abiding in the field of awake being. But we cannot abide if we have a hypervigilant mind and a nervous system that is totally feeling like it's under threat or attack. If it doesn't perform, fit in, belong, feel safe, conform, right? So we're finding out what it is to discover a sense within our own functioning that we are safe and we can trust ourselves, that we can trust that we are wired perfectly, uniquely, beautifully, divinely. And in a way, our mistrust of the divine comes from our mistrust of the way that we have been wired and made, right? So our mistrust of the divine is because we believe, well, there's something wrong with me, that the divine hasn't wired me right. The divine made all those people right, but the divine kind of skipped out on some of the essential operational functions and mechanics for this one to fit in, right? But it's not true. Many beings actually are ahead of this particular time. And the many beings that feel like they don't fit in are because they are already evolved. I've discovered this in the digestive system, that the ones that feel like they have a sensitive digestive system and seem to be sensitive to things are often actually have a very evolved digestive system. The digestive system is a nervous system. And actually the way that we've learned to eat is to completely override and kind of abuse the sensitivity of a highly evolved nervous system, digestive system. So often it's like, again, well, I'm so sensitive, there's something wrong with me. But actually it's not true. It's just that the digestive system won't be fueled by junk that's been created by a left brain imbalanced collective consciousness that's trying to peddle, rubbish as food, right? And actually, what a so-called sensitive nervous system, which is a sensitive digestive system, needs is just pure, simple, natural, untainted, seasonal food, and it will function. It needs to respond to the actual true impulse that I'm hungry and not just be piling in food for comfort, right? To find a way of safety. So it's like the intelligence is so brilliant and yet we've learned to ignore that. And then we have habits, and then we have ways of functioning that can feel really hard to shake. But ultimately, the reason that we're expressing it is that often where we feel to be sensitive and not quite right is actually because the system is already evolved beyond the way that the frequency that the collective is functioning at. And it's about discovering that if we stop trying to fit into the collective and we actually start operating according to the way that we're wired, everything starts to come into a flow, and we all start to take our place as a frequency of consciousness that is profoundly alive as an evolutionary process that is actually a frequency of reassurance, upliftment, and is supporting the collective evolution, right? So this is what we are up to. Yeah.